joined by Lewis and Clark track and field head coach Matthew Barreau. Coach, it's been a long regular season, all leading up to this weekend's Northwest Conference Championship Meet. You've been facing great competition across the Pacific Northwest and even down in San Francisco at the Mike Finelli Classic. How does facing off against that really strong competition all season kind of help your student athletes go into the postseason where I don't think anybody they're going to see is necessarily going to intimidate them or, oh, that's someone that I don't think I can compete with?
Yeah, anybody you face is an opportunity to bring out your best. And sometimes we get lulled to sleep by seeing the same people week in, week out. So it was a great opportunity for us to get out of region a little bit this year and kind of wake us back up to the level of competition that we want to bring out within ourselves.
Looking at this year's squad, it seems like there's more depth than we had at least a season ago heading into the NWC tournament. There's student athletes in the top 10 in almost every event and lots of student athletes in the top 5. How much does that help from a team mentality going in where obviously individuals want to do well, they want to put up PRs, they want to score points, but also they know that as a team, the team has a much better chance of finishing higher in the conference standings because it doesn't rely on the shoulders of a few individual athletes. You could see a lot of different athletes putting up points this weekend. Yeah,
there's classic depth of how many in each event can you get, and then there's also depth of how many events can you spread out your talent across. And this year I think we're in 16 of the 20 events on both sides, so we're pretty excited about that. And I think a couple of the events we're not represented in, we could have been, we just chose not to enter in those events. So from that standpoint, it really allows for a great flow of the meet where we're always going to have someone competing and we'll always have someone to cheer on. We definitely have some top-heavy talent, but there's more of it this year. So great influx of young talent with some of the freshmen, Malia Hine on the women's side, Nick Stade, Jonathan Fritz, Jordan Lahusky, notably on the men's side. And some returning talent and that's developed. Riley Beasy with defending the 10K and 5K on her mind this week. Max Aldrich really taking a step forward and potentially doing the same for the men. Just a lot of Cam Nagaji in the triple jump. So we've got a lot of points to gain and a lot of points to lose. And so part of the mindset of the team is going to be capitalize where we can capitalize and defend our points. And then try to pick up points here and there where we can in the other events. The whole meet's not going to go incredibly smoothly from start to finish. You can't expect that. I think having people in so many events is going to allow us to gain some momentum throughout the meet and help us regain momentum if we lose it at any point.
Start with the women's side. You talk about Riley Beasy. She won 2 titles last year. Cameron Nagaji, the reigning champ in the triple. But you also bring in a lot of athletes who are top 5, top 10 in their events who maybe weren't in that same spot a year ago. Who are some of those athletes outside of Riley who's had tremendous results all year and Cameron who's back in that number 1 spot who maybe have a chance to earn all conference honors or pick up some key points for the team this year?
Yeah, Katja Schweiderman, she had all conference last year in the steeplechase, and I think she's sitting right there in that spot again this year. I think one that really has taken a step forward is Macy O'Hara. She's behind only 2 or 3 very legitimate from the start of their career sprinters, and she's really climbed the ladder and established herself as someone to watch as well. Someone coming over from soccer, not as much of a track background, and has really developed into a good sprinter herself. So she's one that should be positioned to be top 5 in 1 or 2 events this weekend. So that's definitely one that's stepped up.
On the men's side, you have a team that I don't think hit the point they wanted to hit last year in the conference. A ton of talent looking eager to pick up some points, and you have a number of student athletes who are number 1 in their event, both in distance and sprints.
Yeah, we definitely left some points on the board last year. On the men's side, the relay 4x1, dropping the baton, not getting it around is something that still sticks in the coaches and athletes' minds that we're here. On that relay, we've got a couple freshmen, so from their standpoint, they're just excited to be in that moment. And that 4x1, we've been really sitting back lower in the standings most of the year, but I think we have the capability of jumping quite a bit up in that. And then number one in mini events, I think there's a chance that we're a favorite or very close to it in the 5K, the 10K, the 800, the 400, the 200, the 4x4, and I'm potentially missing some in there, but there a lot of heavy hitters that should be bringing home some all-conference or conference titles across many events. We're really excited for the freshmen 400 hurdles with Nick Stade, as we're talking about freshmen. So a lot of freshmen that are really excited to bring their energy and their talents to the team, and it's really invigorated some of the upperclassmen as well. Devin Guest, Paul Biaggi, they've taken big steps forward this year as well. Sean Bodai coming out, to track for the first time. They're really capitalizing on some of that energy.
What's the focus mentally going into a meet like this? Obviously, you need to qualify, and then the focus is in training. Okay, we're aiming at this weekend. How do you focus during the week, and then how do you, especially for some of those student athletes who are competing in multiple events, how do you get them to have that right mental focus? Because if you do poorly in that first event, it could certainly snowball, and that's the last thing you want to see, or vice versa. You do really well, and obviously it can snowball in a positive way. What do you focus on in terms of coaching it from a mental perspective going into a meet like this?
Do your job. Just focus on executing it. It really can be a lot simpler than we try to make it sometimes. So, in any individual event, don't try to make the finish line come up faster than it needs to. Get a good block start, push, accelerate how you should, and then compete. In the jumps, just focus on how does your run have to be down the runway. Don't try to think about the end result of trying to get a little bit farther. If you execute the things that we've been practicing all year, those big performances are possible. As far as capitalizing on momentum or shifting momentum, it just becomes a massive game of psychology, amongst the coaching staff and with the students, whether it's from one event to the next for one person or within the team. Every single event is an opportunity to chart a new course, whether it's correcting the course that we thought we were going to be on, or whether it's charting an even better course than we expected. So it's a cool thing about our sport that there are no timeouts. You just, the gun goes off, you compete. But it is a cool thing about our sport that there's a timeout between every event for us to speak with each individual about their different situation.